Hello and welcome to Mooks and Monsters. I'm Rob Ward,
And I'm Tim Niederreiter, and this is episode 116 of the podcast.
and today we're going to be talking about me.
Yes, it's all about Rob this week. Merry Christmas.
Yes. So, in a couple of weeks ago, Tim was giving his history of gaming and how he got involved in role-playing games and how he is where he is now. And so we decided that's really interesting. Let's do the same for me. So, Tim, I'll let you just
Yeah,
ask me questions.
I'll ask you a question. What
Pardon?
was the first? Well, yeah, sure. I'll ask you a question. What was the first game you remember playing that was like a board game, anything kind of geeky? What started you out there?
Oh wow. Risk, I think it was.
Yes, a classic and frustrating game at that.
Yeah, me and my brother would play that thing all the time. Risk, Stratego, we'd play a lot. Um, and then, well, a Monopoly was always a favorite of mine. I'm one of those few people that actually enjoys Monopoly for some reason. It seems like it gets a lot of hate for some reason. I have no clue why.
Well, it was a game invented by a guy who wanted to prove that capitalism didn't work or something. I forget. Uh, so it was deliberately designed not to be fun, apparently. But at least that's what I've heard. That might just be the internet talking. But yeah. Anyway, no, that's interesting. Those are all classic board games, and I think the strategy war games like Risk and Stratego. I'm not actually that familiar with Stratego, but I'm pretty sure that's a strategy game, right?
It is, yes.
Okay. So these and it's war based, right? It's not it's kind of the it's like how in chess in a very abstract way it covers war, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
To be totally honest, I never really was that much into board games.
Okay.
As a kid, like I wasn't always trying to get the new game or something. I felt like it was very limiting sometimes that I can't, have some wacky thing go on.
There's no earthquakes in Risk. Come on, people.
Exactly, yeah. Or I can't have a morale drive or something to conscript 5 more people. But
yeah, oh,
as time's gone on, as time goes on, I've appreciated board games a little more. But yeah, mostly it was Risk.
Okay, so but I mean, board games have gotten better over the years, and I'm pretty sure you didn't do any miniatures wargaming for a long time for your childhood, right? Not like me, or did you play Magic the Gathering at all?
I played it once.
Okay, so not really, not like I did.
Yeah,
where all my brothers were into it. Yeah.
What I really got into, as far as, well, I shouldn't say that I was totally oblivious to war miniatures. I actually got really into them at one point, but I was a kid. I didn't know how it worked. My parents didn't know how games like that worked. So I just had some, random soldier guys around.
Okay.
And it's because I had not a biological uncle, but an uncle,
Yep.
Like my mom's best friend from high school, her husband was really into war miniatures, Napoleonic era especially.
Okay.
And we go, like, I remember me and my brother would go down to his basement, and my brother would just love this model train set he had up in the basement and watch the thing go. And I would just look at all these miniatures and be like, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? And
why, that is Napoleon.
Yeah, he had enough for like grand scale battles.
Nice.
And I was just like, you painted all of these. And he's like, yeah. So I really got into, had an interest in war miniatures since that age. I haven't played a game till like really recently.
Yeah.
But it's always been in the back of my mind.
Yeah, so that's kind of does that kind of describe your background? Of course, the theater is not to be not to be left out because this is RPGs, which have a major element of theater and that kind of and acting and as well just
Oh,
creativity in
absolutely.
general too. So when you were in high school, you were in theater, right? Or when did you get into
Oh
theater?
yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Um, I got into theater really early. I was 7 years old when I was in my first play,
Mm.
and I was Tigger in Winnie the Pooh.
That seems like the role you would be in.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cute, and because I always kind of wanted to be, I was always a bit of a class clown.
Mm-hmm.
But I always really loved movies. I loved um, seeing TV shows, especially about gangsters.
Okay. Yeah.
I've always had this thing for gangsters since I was a little kid. My grandparents, I'd ask them all about the stories of the gangsters they knew, and they'd tell me stories about the guy in the neighborhood that was in the mob.
Mm. Yeah.
Because they lived in Chicago. My grandfather lived in Chicago all of his life. My grandma lived there most of her life. So it was so I got to learn a lot about that, and I really as a kid I wanted to be a gangster. And as I got older, I just realized, well, okay, that's going to be not safe for my family,
Yeah.
and I might go to jail or I might die. So I'm just going to be in gangster movies, and that's how I really got into theater because I wanted to be like Robert De Niro or Al Pacino or Joe Pesci.
Nice. Yeah. All great actors too. So yeah, so that's and that definitely carried through to the gaming too. That side of things where you've run Mafia games, but also just kind of that. I've noticed the way you do the lore. I mean, what people call lore, right? In your games is kind of similar to that. There's this. You've got even when you don't have an actual mafia in the game,
Mm-hmm.
it's like in your post-apocalyptic game, one of the first games you ever ran for me anyway. Was this there's just this sense of like, oh, there's this kind of interlocking web of organizations and people with their own interests kind of thing. And even that proto game, one of your first games, it was pretty obvious that was kind of what you were going for.
Yeah, yeah. I've always that factionalism and uh, web and balance of power has always been very fascinating to me. I guess something that also really because I was born in '91 and I had the opportunity as a kid to play quite a few of the computer games that were coming out.
Yeah.
I remember Rome Total War when that first came out,
Ooh, yeah.
and I would be on that game all the time. And before that, Age of Empires
Oh, I love Age of
too.
Empires. Yeah.
Yeah, and like with the Conqueror's expansion, I played that thing so much.
You're telling
I
me. Yeah.
oh man, I played that motherfucker so many times. Oh man, it's nuts.
Yeah, that's a great game. Actually, they have it available now again. You can play it
I
online.
have it on
It's pretty
Steam.
sweet. I do too. I just played that game with my brother. But yeah, anyway. Um yeah, he spanked me again. He wrecked my army again. Anyway, the yeah, I neglected the computer games because I was very focused on traditional games, especially because I have such a background in tabletop. But no, but that's not to be sniffed at. Those strategy games, and I mean, I think that's one of the reasons you really excelled as a player in that game, the Triumvirate game with the Baron and everything. Because that game was almost a strategy game and how what you had to handle things, right? You had a bunch of people you could order around and stuff. You could do a lot more than just go into a dungeon and hack up a monster. So
Oh yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so anyway, yeah, go
I felt very at home with that
on.
game in particular because I knew who I what I needed to do and where I needed to really be Machiavellian in that.
Yeah. So as far as your history with role playing games, we're finally getting there
Mhm.
because you got, if I'm correct, you got into role playing games your freshman year of college. Is that correct?
I did, yes. The way it happened was Tim the Younger, a mutual friend of ours from college, um, approached me one day because he was a friend of a friend, and he was like, "Hey, so I'm doing this. I have this game. You want to be in it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I always wanted to play a role playing game because I've always had the interest. I've
Mm.
never had the ability because, like, only person I knew that played any sort of role playing game was my sister, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we were at this party one time and we played D&D." And I was like, "Wait, how did that work? Did you like have was there any one thing on the board? No. Was there anything like what do you get?" It's like, "Well, you get a pen and paper." And I was like, "Okay, how does that work?" And then it was out of my mind's reach to kind of figure out how that worked. A game without a board or cards or anything like that, just dice and paper. Um, and then as soon as I got into it, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm totally at home here because it was Spirit of the Century.
Yeah, the Fate RPG that kind of started all that.
Mm-hmm. And you fell into the that's a good opening game for people that are looking to get their friends into
Mm-hmm.
role playing games because especially Spirit of the Century where it's archetypes and you have roles essentially
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that
all like
way they
D&D.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, and it's not as mathematically hard as D&D, which I never was a math person, so that's so
yeah, it's a
yeah.
plus. Yeah,
Fake Core is a great system for getting people into the game.
yeah, and specifically a setting like Spirit of the Century where they actually provide. I see what you're saying there. They provide more of a base because if you just jump into Fate Core, you need an idea of what you want to do with that system, or you're not going to be doing a whole lot with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a good system. So yeah. So then from playing Fate, from playing Spirit of the Century, where did you go next? If you remember, I'm having trouble with that.
I remember the next game I played after that was because that was freshman year,
Hmm.
and then you came back. Was it that January?
It was after January. It was this spring semester. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And I think that's when we started playing. Was it Mutants and Masterminds
The
at that
first
point?
game was Mutants and Masterminds. The first time I ran a game for you was the last session of my corporate superhero game.
Right. Yes. And I remember getting into that. Um,
Yeah,
so
and
we played
everyone was
that.
way into Mutants and Masterminds at that point. That was kind of the main game our group was into for a while there.
Oh yeah, totally. Because then, like the year after that, I started playing the Osprey,
Hmm.
and he was a character that was just where I feel like Osprey's really when I started to like get into the groove of what a game is. Um,
Yeah, and that was Tim the Younger's game. It was a really solid game. He's a great game master.
yeah, he's a really solid game master.
Yeah.
Um, and I think after that, that's when we started playing around with Rhesus,
Right,
and
that'd
we
be the next
played.
winter. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it was Spirit of the Century, Mutants and Masterminds, Rhesus. Um, yeah, and we kind of just then Call of Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, Call of Cthulhu was somewhere in the middle there. Yeah,
Yeah, because
because
Nate
yeah,
did
Nate
that
was
one.
running that one. Yeah.
So we had a core of it was mostly Mutants and Masterminds and Spirit of the Century for the first couple of years, and
Hmm.
then it really got into Rhesus and a little Call of Cthulhu um, in there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that
and
sounds about
then
right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I think that's.
yeah, and then when I finally played Pathfinder, I was already like a junior or senior.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't there for that one. Yeah, I never actually played. I've never actually played Pathfinder. I think it's interesting.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I have a bunch of the books I got from a charity for when in PDF. I got from a charity thing. They were Paizo was doing, but I bought them for like $10. Got like all the books, but
Nice.
yeah, it was a few years ago. But and I really liked the third edition D&D, so I've basically played Pathfinder, but I've never
Hmm.
played because that was the game it was based on. But I've never really played the new version. Um, So no, that's interesting. I know you in math obviously is not necessarily your strongest suit, and Pathfinder is a pretty math heavy game, being based on
Hmm.
D&D. especially third edition D&D, which was the most complicated version of that game, except maybe fourth,
Yeah,
which I
I'm
don't have any
like,
experience with.
if I was gonna play D&D again, I'd probably like start with the fifth
Yeah, fifth edition
edition.
looks really easy, actually.
Yeah, because well, it seems to be much more streamlined instead of all the, you know, because you look at like a Pathfinder or D&D 3.5,
Mhm.
and it's really much those night. This is from the 1980s. Here's this, extremely mathy, clunky, unforgiving system
Right.
that you have to, be playing this thing for fucking years to
And
like
it's
totally get a
frankly kind
grasp
of an
on.
unwelcoming system. Yeah.
It is, yeah, and I feel like that's why I haven't played as much of those systems because I can explain to people what Call of Cthulhu is in a day. Well, not a day, but
In a few
a
hours,
session.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, a few hours, and people would kind of be okay. Roll low, do this. Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Limbo lower now. But yeah, yeah. So so that's yeah, so that kind of gets us toward the present. After college, we move on to we kind of our paths diverge a little bit. But
Hmm.
you've been running Call of Cthulhu recently. Um
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think basic role playing in general has really become the system I'm most fond of
Hmm. Yeah, how are you
because
liking seventh edition Call of Cthulhu?
I love it. I really think they because instead of because everything already is well now the conversion's really simple. All you have to do is
Right.
multiply it by something
Five.
like 5 or 10.
Yeah, I think it's
Um,
five. Yeah.
yeah, and you're there.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. I would it's welcoming, and they give you a whole bunch of options in that system that you're like, if you want to use this rule, you can. You don't need to. They're not like the game's gonna fall apart if you choose to do something else instead of this rule.
Yeah. And I know
So
D&D, that's like a big difference, like I said before, because there's some people with this superstitious reverence for D&D's rules.
mhm.
I don't think there are a lot of people like that as adults, but when I was a teenager playing those games, there were people like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally played in the game where it was very mechanics and rules heavy for D&D, and we were playing the Geseldite thing where
Gestalt,
you
yeah.
Gestalt, yeah, where you multi-class.
Yeah, that's very complicated, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I went in there. I was like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
Yes. Well, anyway, yeah, anything else you want to add about your history as a game master? I mean, I've talked a little much probably for this, but yeah.
um, no, I feel like that's I got into it much later
Hmm.
than you, but I feel like my interest have really as a kid has really influenced what I'm interested in as a game master nowadays. Because I should talk about my first game mastering.
Oh yeah,
I
go for
ran
it.
I ran Mutants and Masterminds in this post-apocalyptic world of the United States where it was all broken off into factions and countries, and there was mutants running around. Yeah, so it was my first one, and I learned a lot from that one. And then I guess the next thing I ran was
Oh, D20 Mafia. We missed that one altogether.
D20 Mafia. How did I forget? I found this in a I found this system in a what is it?
A game store, right?
Half price book.
Half
It
price
was half
books.
price
Okay.
book, and I found it, and I was like, "What? They made a game about the mafia?" And so, of course, I bought the thing on the spot, and I was reading it, and D20, modern is it's like D&D in that way, where it's a little
Yeah, it's
mathy. So it was a challenge for me to kind of run the system um, itself, but it was just like, okay, I know I can do this now because after Mutants and Masterminds, I was like, I might be able to pull out a game once in a while, but after that one, I was like, no, I'm a game master now.
yeah, it's an important step, obviously. I mean, because it took me a long time to make that step myself, as I mentioned in my episode. Um, where after my first game, it took me a couple of years before I really ran again. Uh, so yeah, no, that's. I think it's and then D20 Mafia. I mean, obviously being a little clunky, but it's pretty easy to convert to something like BRP. So that's or Call of Cthulhu's rule set. So that's kind of I'd be interested to see if you can ever manage to do that in the future. If you're interested in doing that again, that'd be awesome. I think that'd be a really cool place.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I would totally.
Or just do Call of Cthulhu with gangsters.
Well, what I started doing, I think this is also kind of another. Sorry if this is going a little longer.
No, it's great. Yeah.
I feel like after we played out a couple of the Mutants and Masterminds, not the D20 Modern Mafia, um, I was like, I love doing Mafia games. I wish the system was a little bit more human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started getting in. Like, I was like, wait, BRP.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we just spent like 3 hours together, just kind of going over like how to, translate it essentially into a system that's a little more human, a little more grounded, a little easier to run.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's when I started to become like someone that likes to make games as well, like experimenting with the wrestling game, and then I'm working on Magnate still.
Magnate, yes.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if we talked about that on the show.
We haven't, no. But yeah, maybe we can.
Yeah, maybe that's a story for another day. Yeah,
maybe, yeah. But that's currently my major project right now. But yeah, that's kind of where I am now as a game master. I'm running Call of Cthulhu. I'm been doing it since 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I've been gaming since role playing since 2010. Game mastering since 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's to many more years of you game mastering.
Well, thank you very much, Tim.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So this has been of Mooks and Monsters.
Yes, you can find us at mentalsolidpublications.com. You can email us at podcast@mentalsolidpublications.com. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at StayChat. Tim's at TNeedWriter. You can find us on Facebook. Please like our page. We're hosted by Lipson, and we can be found wherever podcasts can be found.
Thanks for listening, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, y'all.